In 1945, a starving German soldier found a pack of American Lucky Strikes inside a sealed Nazi mailbag. He thought he'd struck gold, but he hadn't found contraband, he'd found a weapon. This is the story of how the US spies tricked the Nazis into delivering their own destruction. February 5th, 1945, 11,000 feet above the railway lines near Street Pulten, Austria. The air inside the B-17 Flying Fortress is a bitter, rattling cold, so thin it barely feels like breathing. Below, the Austrian countryside is a stark canvas of white snow and black forest, scarred by the grey ribbon of a railway. For the crew of the bomber, this is a strange run. They are flying unescorted, deep into the Reich, and the puffs of black smoke from the German flak cannons are getting closer. But the real tension isn't just the anti-aircraft fire, it's the cargo. In the bomb bay, where hundreds of pounds of high explosives should be, there is mail. Dozens of heavy, canvas sacks. They look impossibly German, stenciled with the ominous Reichsadler and the words Deutsche Reichspost. They are perfectly forged, indistinguishable from the real thing. This is not a mission of demolition. It's a mission of deception. The pilot, Captain Miller, banks the heavy bomber, his eyes scanning the snow. His target isn't a factory, a bridge, or a U-boat pen. His target is a smoking ruin. Bombardier to pilot. I have visual. Target confirmed. Lieutenant Jensen, the bombardier, is staring through his Norden bomb sight at a fresh disaster. Hours earlier, a flight of P-51 Mustangs had strafed and bombed a German mail train on this very line. The locomotive is on its side, a plume of black smoke still rising from its boiler. Cars are scattered like discarded toys. This chaos is the objective. It's a mess down there, Captain. Jensen's voice crackles. Looks like they already have a cleanup crew. That's what the brief said. Miller replies, his voice tight. Hold your course. Get us right over the wreckage. This has to be perfect. This is Operation Cornflakes, a mission born in the shadowy corridors of the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, America's new spy agency. It is a psychological dagger aimed at the heart of the Third Reich, and its delivery system is the Reichspost itself. The men who planned this, intelligence operatives working out of liberated Rome, weren't just forging mailbags, they were forging an entire reality. Inside those bags are not letters from home, they are a virus. They contain thousands of pieces of black propaganda, letters, supposedly from German soldiers at the front, detailing the hopeless meat grinder, the corrupt officers, the inevitable defeat. They hold miniature newspapers, titled Das Neue Deutschland, the New Germany, filled with stories of high-ranking Nazi officials fleeing the country with stolen gold, of secret surrender negotiations, of a regime eating itself alive. All of it is meticulously crafted. The stamps are perfect forgeries. The postmarks are authentic, copied from real German mail. The paper stock, the ink, the very tone of the letters all designed to be indistinguishable from the real thing. But to make the delivery work, the OSS couldn't just drop them on a city. That would be obvious propaganda. No, they had to be found. They had to enter the German system organically. And so, the plan, wait for Allied fighters to shoot up a mail train, then have a specially designated B-17 fly over the wreckage and restock it with their own mailbags. The German cleanup Crucial frozen soldiers, Volkssturm militia, or Reichspost workers would arrive at the chaotic scene. Amidst the burned-out cars and scattered letters, they would find these miraculously intact mailbags thrown clear by the blast. And what would a good, dutiful German do? He would salvage the property of the Reich. He would gather the bags, and eager to restore order, put them right back into the German postal system. From there, the OSS's poison would be hand-delivered by German mailmen to German homes, offices, and barracks across the Reich. Stand by, Jensen says, his hand hovering over the toggle. Altitude steady, speed steady. The B-17 rumbles directly over the wrecked train. Bombs, away! But no bombs fall. Instead, the bomb bay doors snap open, and the forged mailbags tumble out, end over end. They are not bombs, they are Trojan horses, made of canvas and paper. They fall silently, dark shapes against the white snow, plummeting towards the wreckage. Captain Miller doesn't wait to watch them land. He pushes the yoke forward, diving to pick up speed, desperate to escape the flak zone. His crew has just delivered the strangest payload of the war. Down below, at the smoking wreck, a young German lancer named Hans, freezing in his threadbare greatcoat, looks up at the sound of the departing bomber. He curses the Amerikaner flyers. Then, he sees several large bags land with soft thumps in a snowdrift just yards from the burned-out mail car. Intact. Perfect. He signals to his sergeant. They have found some mail to salvage. Hans shivers, pulling the collar of his mantle tighter. It's a poor quality, late-war coat, and the wool feels more like steel wool. He and his sergeant, Feldwebel Richter, trudge through the deep snow toward the cluster of dark canvas bags. Richter is an older man, a veteran of the First War, with a face permanently etched in a scowl of grim disapproval. He hates the cold, he hates the Amerikaner bombers, and most of all, he hates this chaos. Look sharp, Hans. Richter barks, his breath pluming. The Reichspost won't thank us for letting these sit. Secure them. They reach the first bag. It's heavy, damp from the snow, but remarkably undamaged. The Reichsadler stenciled on its side is stark and official. Hans grabs one end, Richter the other. Ugh, Hans grunts, lifting. Heavy. Must be full. It's mail, you idiot, not feathers. Richter snaps. He inspects the lead seal on the bag's closure. Seal is broken, probably from the impact. No matter. As they haul the first bag toward the waiting Opel Blitz truck, Hans spots another one, half buried. This one has a small tear in the canvas, likely from where it struck a branch. As Hans grabs it, something small and rectangular slips from the tear and falls silently onto the snow. Hans stops. He glances at Richter, who is already walking back to the wreckage, shouting at two other Volkssturm men to help. Curious, Hans leans down. His gloved fingers brush the snow away. It's a pack of cigarettes. He picks it up. He doesn't recognize the brand at first. It's not the harsh Juno or Eckstein cigarettes the Wehrmacht is issued. The packet is crisp, white with a bold red circle. He reads the words, "Lucky Strike." Hans's blood runs cold, faster than the Austrian winter could manage. Amerikaner. He's held American cigarettes before, taken from a captured pilot months ago. These are the same. His first instinct is terror. A booby trap? He fumbles it, half expecting it to explode. But it's just a pack of cigarettes. His second instinct is confusion. What is a pack of Lucky Strikes doing inside a Deutsche Reichspost mailbag? Hans, what are you staring at? Your girlfriend? Richter is back, his face red with frustration. Move this. Richter stops. He sees the pack in Hans's hand, his eyes narrow. He snatches it. Where did this come from? He demands, his voice low and dangerous. It fell from the bag, Herr Feldwebel. Hans stammers, pointing at the tear. The Amerikaner cigarettes. Richter turns the pack over in his own glove. He is silent for a long moment. He, too, understands the implication. This mailbag, which looks so perfectly German, was tainted. But Richter's mind doesn't jump to a vast conspiracy. It lands on a more mundane, more German conclusion. Theft. Plunder. Richter snarls. Some Schwein at the Western Front is stealing from captured armies and mailing it home. Disgraceful. This is what the army has come to. He rips the pack open. The silver foil inside glints. He slides one of the cigarettes out, sniffs it. Real tobacco. A luxury he hasn't smelled in years. This is the genius of the OSS plan. The cigarettes weren't just a bonus. They were a distraction. They were too small, too personal to suggest a state-level operation. They felt like simple, everyday contraband. This is evidence of a crime, Richter says sternly. He looks at Hans. But we are at the front. And waste is also a crime. He tucks the pack deep into his greatcoat pocket. Forget what you saw. It's bad for morale. Now, get these bags loaded. We take them to the sorting office in Street. Polton. The mail must go through. Hans. relieved to not be in trouble, nods vigorously. Jawohl, Herr Feldwebel. For the next hour, Hans and the rest of the cleanup crew gather the scattered, forged mailbags. They mix them in with the few real bags they could salvage from the burned-out cars. To them, it's all just mail. Property of the Reich. The Opel Blitz truck, loaded with dozens of canvas-bound Trojan horses, finally rumbles to life. It slips and slides on the icy road, leaving the smoking train wreck behind, and heads toward the warmth and light of the city. Later that afternoon, the street Polten Postamt is a hive of frantic, bureaucratic activity. It's overcrowded, underheated, and run by overworked men in dark blue uniforms. The post inspector, an elderly man named Herr Fels, receives the salvaged mail from Richter. He signs a form in triplicate, his hand shaking slightly from the cold. "A terrible business," Fels mutters, adjusting his spectacles. "But this is good work, Feldwebel. Good work. Order must be maintained. Duty is all that is left." "Heil Hitler," Richter replies, gives a short nod, and leaves. The bags, including the one Hans found, are unceremoniously dumped onto a long, wooden sorting table. A half-dozen post-Beamton postal clerks descend on the pile. They are cold, hungry, and tired of the war, but they are professionals. A clerk named Dieter, his fingers blue from the cold, slices open the first OSS bag. He pulls out a handful of letters. He glances at the first one. It's addressed to a Frau Anna Schmidt in Berlin. The stamp is correct. The postmark Feldpost Unit 709. From the Italian front looks perfect. He tosses it into the Berlin bin. He picks up the next one. A small folded pamphlet, disguised as a personal bulletin. Das Neue Deutschland. He doesn't read it. He just checks the address. Hamburg. He throws it in the Hamburg bin. Letter by letter, pamphlet by pamphlet, the poison is sorted. The poison is entering the veins of the Third Reich, and the German postal service itself is the willing, efficient, and unsuspecting injector. Evening, February 5th, 1945. A requisitioned schoolhouse, Street Polten. The Lancer of Hans's cleanup squad are billeted in what was once a children's classroom. The small desks and chairs have been pushed into a corner to make room for straw-stuffed palliaces. A single, pot-bellied stove in the center of the room fights a losing battle against the frozen drafts whistling through the cracked windows. The men are gathered around it, trying to thaw their feet. They are a mix of teenagers like Hans and old, weary men like Richter. Morale is a frozen, brittle thing. Hans sits on his pack, cleaning his rifle, his mind still on the strange, cold day. The bomber, the wreck, the cigarettes. He can still smell the rich, sweet tobacco on Feldwebel Richter's coat. Richter, for his part, is smoking one of the Lucky Strikes now, away in a corner, pretending it's a normal Juno. The lie is so blatant, it's almost comical. The classroom door creaks open. A post-Beamterra postal clerk enters, his face numb with cold. He carries a small, half-empty canvas bag. "Mail call," the clerk announces, his voice flat. The room, previously slumped in exhaustion, snaps to attention. Men crowd forward, their faces suddenly alive with a desperate hope. "A few items," the clerk says, pulling out a small bundle. "Salvaged from the wreck this morning. We processed what we could." He begins to read names. "Braun? Schulze?" Men grunt, pushing forward, taking their letters. One man, a private named Gunther, gets a small parcel. He shakes it, grinning. "Ah! My wife! She sent it!" "Probably sausage," another man jokes, his voice hollow. "Or a new pair of holes for your socks." Then, the clerk says, "Hans Keitel?" Hans freezes. "Keitel? Mail for him? He hasn't received anything in 3 months. Not since the rail lines from his village were bombed into rubble." He slowly raises his hand. The clerk hands him a single, standard-issue Feldpost letter. Hans stares at it. The address is correct. Soldat Hans Keitel, Landesschützenbataillon 508. But the handwriting, he doesn't recognize it. It's not his mother's careful cursive or his sister's looping script. It's an aggressive, unfamiliar scrawl. He turns it over. The postmark is from a unit on the Italian front. He doesn't know anyone in Italy. He sits back down on his pack, the letter feeling heavy and strange in his hand. Beside him, Gunther is tearing the paper off his small parcel. Hans breaks the wax seal and unfolds the letter. He begins to read. "My dearest brother." Hans frowns. He has no brother. "I write to you from the hospital in Verona. I can no longer lie to you. The war in Italy is a disaster. We are not retreating. We are being annihilated. Our officers, the ones who are not shot by partisans, are selling our fuel on the black market." Hans's eyes scan the page, his breath catching. This isn't a letter. It's a confession. It's treason. It speaks of total collapse, of SS units executing Wehrmacht soldiers for defeatism, of a government that has already fled Berlin. "Do not believe the radio," the letter continues. "It is over. Save yourself. The armies and the British are not the monsters we were told. Surrender is the only way. Do not die for a lie. It is signed, your loving brother, Erich." Hans feels sick. His hands are shaking, but not from the cold. He looks around, terrified. If Richter sees this, he'll be shot. He quickly starts to fold the letter. "Well, look at this," Gunther exclaims, right next to him. Hans flinches, thinking he's been discovered. But Gunther isn't looking at him. He's holding up his prize, salvaged from the parcel. "Cigarettes? She sent me cigarettes." Gunther holds the pack aloft for all to see. It's white, with a bold red circle. Lucky strike. The world stops. Hans looks at the pack of cigarettes in Gunther's hand. He looks at the treasonous letter crumpled in his own. He remembers the torn mailbag on the frozen tracks, the bag he loaded onto the truck, the identical pack of cigarettes that fell from it, the ones Feldwebel Richter is smoking right now. This mail, Hans thinks, his heart pounding a sick rhythm against his ribs. It all came from the same place. It wasn't a soldier stealing contraband. It wasn't a single, strange letter. It was the bags themselves, the ones that fell from the sky, the ones that looked so perfectly, reassuringly German. The Amerikaner bomber, it hadn't been trying to destroy the train. It had been delivering the mail. This letter in his hand, this poison, it hadn't been sent by a German. It had been planted. Gunther's parcel, with its impossible American cigarettes, was part of the same monstrous lie. The cigarettes weren't meant for Richter. They weren't meant for Gunther. They were a lure. Hans suddenly feels the entire crushing weight of the deception. The enemy isn't just at the front. The enemy is in his pocket. It's in the mail. It's using the Reichspost against them. He looks at the letter again, its message of surrender and collapse. He looks at Richter, happily smoking his evidence. He looks at Gunther, blissfully unaware he's holding a piece of enemy propaganda. Hans has realized the truth. And he is, perhaps, the only man in this room, maybe the only man in all of Street Polton. Who knows? Hans's first instinct is to yell, to warn everyone. But he catches himself. Warn them of what? That the mail is a lie, that the Reichspost is compromised. He looks at Feldwebel Richter. Richter is the embodiment of the German system. He is a man who would follow an order to the letter, even if it meant marching off a cliff. If Hans were to show him the letter from Erich, Richter wouldn't see a trick. He would see defeatism. He would see treason. And he would arrest Hans on the spot. Hans is trapped. He is holding a bomb. "All right, that's enough," Richter barks, sensing the unrest in the room. Gunther's cigarettes have caused a stir, a mix of jealousy and suspicion. "Settle down. Keitel, put that away. Lights out in 10 minutes. This is his chance." As the men disperse from the stove, grumbling, Hans moves quickly. His hands are sweating despite the cold. He rips the letter into quarters, crumples it into a tight ball, and walks to the pot-bellied stove. He yanks the small cast-iron door open. The heat hits his face. He tosses the ball of paper onto the glowing embers. He watches as the name Erich blisters, turns brown, and curls into black ash. The words of collapse vanish in a wisp of smoke, but he can't burn the idea. He turns back to the room. Gunther, oblivious, has lit one of the lucky strikes. It's real Ami tobacco, Gunther says, inhaling deeply. Smooth, not like that floor-sweeping trash they give us. Where did your wife get American cigarettes, Gunther? Another soldier asks, his voice sharp with suspicion. She must have traded for it, Gunther says, suddenly defensive. On the black market, what do you care? I care that you're smoking the enemy's contraband, the soldier mutters. It's just a cigarette, you fool, Gunther scoffs. Hans watches them argue. He sees it now. It doesn't matter if they believe the letter. It doesn't matter if they believe the cigarettes are from Gunther's wife. The doubt is there. The other, the enemy, is no longer just a faceless flyer 11,000 feet up. He is in their barracks. He is in their mail. He is in their pockets. The system is compromised. And the men are compromising each other. The operation, Hans realizes, isn't just about the letter. It's about the lucky strike. It's a symbol. It proves that the impenetrable Festung Europa Fortress Europaeus full of holes. The next morning, February 6th, 1945, a residential street in Vienna. Herr Ebert, a postman for 30 years, rides his bicycle down the Kärntner Strasse. His blue Reichspost uniform is immaculate, though the elbows are threadbare. He feels the weight of the war, but he also feels the profound, unwavering importance of his duty. Bombs or no bombs, the mail is civilization. The mail must go through. His bag today is full. It includes a portion of the salvaged mail from the Street Polten train wreck. He, like the clerks, sees nothing wrong. It is simply mail. He stops at a grand apartment building, its windows boarded up. He delivers a letter to Frau Hauser, the wife of a Wehrmacht general. He tips his cap. The letter he hands her is a forged one, purportedly from another general's wife in Dresden, detailing a total collapse of faith in the Führer. He continues on. He delivers a small, folded pamphlet Das Neue Deutschland to a foreman at the Steyr Daimler Puch factory. The foreman will read it in the latrine, his eyes widening at the true reports of Allied crossings at the Rhine. Herr Ebert delivers his poison with a polite nod and a professional smile. He is the vector. He is the blood cell, carrying the OSS virus to every organ of the Reich. Simultaneously, OSS headquarters, Rome. In a smoke-filled, high-ceilinged office, two men stand over a map of Austria and southern Germany. One is a major in an unmarked uniform. The other is a civilian, a short, balding man in a rumpled suit named Alan Dulles, the OSS station chief in Bern, visiting Rome for this very operation. An intelligence officer, a young lieutenant, rushes in, holding a piece of paper from the teletype. Sir, we have it. Intercept from the Vienna Post Direction. Dulles takes the paper. He reads it, and a small reptilian smile plays on his lips. Gentlemen, he says to the room, the German postal authority in Street Polten has officially reported the salvage of approximately 24 bags of Feldpost and domestic mail. They regret the minor water damage, the major grins, water damage, but confirm that all legible mail, Dulles continues, has been successfully reintegrated for domestic delivery. The room is silent. It is a victory far more profound than a bombing raid. They haven't just destroyed a target, they have infiltrated a system. The Trojan horse has been wheeled inside the gates, the major says. More than that, Dulles replies, tapping the map. The Trojans themselves unpacked it, carried it to the High Temple, and are now distributing its contents as gifts. He looks at the intelligence officer. Send the signal to the 15th Air Force. Prepare the next shipment. And tell the print shop to double the run of Das Neue Deutschland. Operation Cornflakes is a go. The officer nods. And the cigarettes, sir? By all means, Lieutenant, Dulles says, lighting one of his own. Send the cigarettes. Morale is, after all, a fragile thing. February 7th, 1945. Vienna, Innenstadt. Frau Ilse Hauser sits in her drawing room, wrapped in a fur coat, even though she is indoors. The heating oil ran out in January. The apartment is vast, opulent, and freezing. She is the wife of General Major Friedrich Hauser, currently commanding a shattered panzer division on the Oder front. She holds the letter that Herr Ebert delivered yesterday. She has read it 5 times. It is from her friend, the wife of another general, supposedly in Dresden. The handwriting is a perfect, educated scrawl. It does not speak of bombs or battles. It speaks of logistics. My dear Ilse, Kurt says, it is no longer a matter of if, but when. He told me in strictest confidence that Goering has already moved his art collections to South America. Himmler is apparently trying to negotiate a separate peace with the Western Allies through the Swedes, and Bormann is stripping the treasury. They are all, he said, rats on a sinking ship. Why is Friedrich still holding the line? For what? For whom? Get out. Get to the mountains. Frau Hauser lets the letter fall into her lap. This is not propaganda as she knows it. It is not a crude leaflet dropped from a plane, full of cartoons of Hitler. It is gossip. It is the talk of her social class. And it lands with the force of truth. She has seen the Gauleiter's children being driven west, to boarding school, with 16 suitcases. She has heard the frantic, whispered rumours at the opera, now closed. This letter does not introduce a new idea. It confirms a terrible, growing suspicion. She picks up the heavy black telephone and begins the long, arduous process of trying to get a priority line to her husband's field HQ. She is not a panicking civilian. She is a general's wife. And she will demand to know why her husband is the last one to leave the sinking ship. She is doing, in effect, exactly what the OSS analysts in Rome had predicted she would. She is adding psychological strain, not to a lancer, but to a general. Later that day, the Steyr Daimler Puch factory. Karl Reiter, the foreman, stands in the deafening clatter of the assembly line. They are supposed to be making rifle barrels. But the steel is poor, the workforce is exhausted, and half the machines are broken. He is in the latrine, the only place with any privacy, rereading the small, folded pamphlet he received in the mail, Das Neue Deutschland. It's not like the Völkische Beobachter, all bombast and fury. It's calm, it's factual. It lists, with terrifying precision, the Allied divisions that have crossed the Ruhr River. It lists the true number of U-boats lost last month. And then, it has a simple 2-column list, what the Soviets will do, followed by a stark, brutal description of rape, pillage and deportation to Siberia. What the Western Allies will do, followed by descriptions of food, order, reconstruction, and adherence to the Geneva Convention. For Karl, a Viennese family man, this is not propaganda, this is a choice. With the Red Army already deep in Hungary and approaching the Austrian border, this pamphlet is the most important piece of information he has read in 5 years. He folds it, tucks it deep into his boot. When he walks back out onto the factory floor, he looks at the men working. They are tired, they are hungry, and they are terrified of the Russians. He walks over to a young man, barely 17, sweating as he tries to unjam a lathe. "Tony," Karl says, his voice low, "go home." "But Herr Foreman, the shift. The machine is broken. Your mother needs you to help her board up the windows," Karl says, not meeting his eye. "Go. Don't come back tomorrow. Take the day. You look sick." The boy, confused but grateful, flees. Karl moves to the next machine. "Take a break, a long one. It's not a strike. It's not sabotage. It's just sand. Sand in the gears." Karl Reiter is slowing down the war, not because he is a traitor, but because Das Neue Deutschland has given him a new, terrible priority: survive the Soviets. That evening. A Volkssturm barracks, Vienna. Tony, the young worker from the factory, is at his nighttime post with his militia unit. He has, impossibly, also received a parcel, salvaged from the street. Polton wreck. He opens it. Inside, his friends cheer. It's a small, hard sausage, some mended socks, and a pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes. Tony holds them up, grinning. "Look, my aunt in Linz must have traded them." His voice trails off. An older man in the squad, a veteran like Richter, looks at the pack. "That's funny." The old man grunts. "My nephew, Gunter, up near Street Polton. He got a pack of those in the mail too, from his wife." The men fall silent. 2 packs. 2 different families. 2 different cities. The exact same, rare, American cigarettes. In the German Reichspost. The logic is simple, brutal, and unavoidable. It's not a coincidence. It's not the black market. They're not from your aunt, kid, the old man says, his voice hollow. They're from them. The room is silent. The Lucky Strike pack, sitting on the table, suddenly looks less like a gift and more like an omen. The realization, the one Hans had at the wreck, is now spreading. The enemy isn't just at the gates, he's in the mail.